I've struggled to fall asleep and stay asleep for a very long time. And in fact, for the past 12 years, I've smoked weed every night to fall asleep. And then again at 3 o'clock in the morning when I wake up and can't get back to sleep, until I found these two things. And I think this will be helpful even if you don't smoke weed. If you just struggle with sleeping, I'm willing to bet that these tools will help. That said, this is an N=1 experiment. This is my experience and it's helped me immensely, but I'm not a doctor. There's no study behind this. This is just something that I found to help. So let's talk about the 3 a.m. wake ups first, because there's a tactical solution that I found here. For me, I wake up at 3 a.m. I'm drenched in sweat usually. My mind is running a mile a minute. I'm definitely can feel this sort of fight or flight response. I'm not in a good place. And so I would hit the bowl or toss and turn until it was 6 a.m. and it was time to get out of bed. However, I quit smoking a while ago. And so I had to come up with another solution to this problem. And what I started doing is what's called parts work in the middle of the night. So if you're familiar with IFS or internal family systems, you'll know what parts work is. Essentially though, our psyche is made up of lots of different parts. That's why we're often torn between two things. And parts work addresses one of those parts specifically. And oftentimes the parts are a part of us that is stuck in a trauma from our past, something that happened to us in our childhood, but they don't need to be that. Like for example, I have a part that I call the Marine because I was in the Marine Corps, which is the part that really enforces discipline in my life, sometimes to my own detriment. However, all of these parts played a helpful role for us. They helped us get through or get past something. And I had an epiphany not too long ago that perhaps I could try to contact them at night, because maybe there is this like in-between space of half awake and half asleep that opened up a better channel of communication when my conscious guard was down just a little bit. And so I decided to have a conversation with them through journaling. And I'll read from my journal here in a little bit, but let's talk about the process first. So number one is identifying where I'm feeling it. Where is it in my body? So is it in my neck or my shoulder? I have another one in my pec. I have one in my low back or in my hip. And once you establish where it is, at that point, we're going to name it. And you can name it, and this is now on to step two, we can name it the body part, you can name it an emotion, or you can actually give it an actual name. When you try to talk to them, I'll say something like, I want to talk to the part of me making my chest feel tight right now, or I want to talk to the part of my body that is making my low back hurt. Are you willing to talk with me? And as a side note, sometimes they're not going to be ready to talk to you, and that is okay. What I've found is they've even been grateful that you've asked, and oftentimes you'll be able to get some rest just from that short interaction. Usually though, they will be willing to engage with you. And the first thing that I do is establish that name for a dialogue, and I write it down in my journal so that I can have, like, picture a movie script. So I say Jay, which is my name, and I write something, and then I write one of my parts names I call Peckham because he's in my pec, in my chest, so Peckham. And then I write what he has to say. And then I just ask what they're trying to tell me. And then on to step three, this is really important, no editing. It's important that you let your inner critic go here. Part of you is going to think, I'm crazy. This is just me writing to me. Why would this possibly work? And technically that's true, but I'm almost always surprised without what I'm writing down for that part. So there's something deeper in my subconscious or somewhere that is coming through here. But if you edit, you're not going to get any of the useful information. Also, it's really important to be kind and gentle when you're interacting with them. At least for me, I've found that they're pretty sensitive. So remember that. Oftentimes we're talking to a young part of ourselves. On to step 4, we're going to get the message. So after they start opening up, ask what they're trying to say. Why are they grabbing your attention? What are they trying to get across? Maybe it's a piece of wisdom that you need to know. Maybe it's a memory that you need to process. Maybe it's a fear that you have. And your only job here is to receive whatever comes, to stay open, to stay in the moment, to stay engaged. Moving on to step 5, how can we help? So after you get the message, we want to know, what can we do? How can we serve them? And sometimes they want you to do something very specific. Other times they want you to check in with them the next day. Sometimes they just want to know if you're going to show up, if you're going to be there to listen. So it could be something big, it could be something tiny. After you get the message, make sure you say thanks. Thank you for the wisdom. Thank you for coming to me. Thank you for communicating. Remember, this is a thing that's been driving you insane for a very long time. And you're turning to attention to them after you've been ignoring them. And so thank them. Thank them for them to be willing to show up, even though it took you a really long time. Be sure to note, write down anything that they want you to do tomorrow, because we're in this sort of sleepy state. You might not remember. And if you don't honor what they're asking, why would they continue to come back to you? And then make sure that you actually do it. Number 7, don't break trust. They asked you to do something, do it. After that, when you still have this channel of communication open, ask them if they'd be willing to let go just for the night. If they can ease up so that you can get some rest. And if this is tied to a specific pain or a specific emotion, ask if they can ease that burden a little bit so that you can get to sleep. And then finally, go back to sleep. However, again, be sure to honor any agreements that you made. Also, it's a good idea to journal to them the next day, I've found. They appreciate it when it's during the day. Sometimes even you can sort of get a preemptive conversation in there so that they don't have to come to you the following night. And maybe another part comes, or maybe you get to sleep through the night. So now I'm going to read an example from my journal. So this was actually from last week. Jay, I'd like to talk to the part of me that takes over my body around 3 a.m. most nights. The part that it is in my right pec muscle right now. I'm listening to you. Please speak to me and help give you the attention you deserve. Peckham, you hurt your body for so long and now you just want it to rest? It's not that simple. You have to earn your rest. You have to deal with me. Jay, I know I hurt you in so many ways for so long. I'm so sorry that I didn't listen sooner. P, or Peckham, there's still so much stuck inside that you must deal with. I'm here to remind you of that. The point is to make you uncomfortable so you don't turn away from the work you have to do. Jay, okay, well, I'm here. And I promise to be here each night you decide to wake me. I honor you. P, you're doing a good job to release the tension from your physical body, but don't forget to work on healing the way you think. J, how is it I can do that? P, you're doing it now. Keep this up. Keep listening, even when it's inconvenient, especially then. This method of communication works well. And then it goes on. Okay, so you get the idea of how that can go. And that is the biggest piece of what I wanted to talk about today. But there's a second piece here, which is to truly leave it all out there. To know that you're giving your best every day, not for yourself, but for your soul. Because you were put on this planet for something. God or the universe or whatever word you like to use there has a plan for you. And if you can honestly say that you did all you could do that day, it makes it a whole lot easier to relax, to let go. Your central nervous system starts to wind down and release, or at least mine does. What else can you do other than to try, regardless of the outcomes? And that means sacrifice. That means giving things up. That means doing the hard thing. I've been listening to this series that Jordan Peterson does on the Bible on YouTube, actually. It's great. You should check it out. And he was talking about the Abrahamic sacrifices that are in the Bible and how, as modern people, we look back and think it's this detestable, gross thing that they are, or maybe not detestable and gross, but archaic, tribal, that they're sacrificing animals. And Jordan Peterson's thing is, you're not getting the point. This is a representation. This is a symbol. You've got to give something up. You've got to put something on the altar for God, because it is not easy. And it requires sacrifice to walk our path. It also means doing hard shit, embracing fear, allowing change to come into your life. We want things to be different, but we don't want things to change. And when we create space for those things, when we let go, this sense of peace and relaxation shows up. And that also makes it so much easier to sleep. All right, that's enough for today. I hope you found this helpful. If you do this, let me know how it goes. I'd love to have more data than just yours truly. We've got a Gene Keys coming out later this week, the 6 lines in one of the spheres in the activation sequence. So hopefully I'll see you for that.